morning, good afternoon, good evening, football fans. This is the Backups, a football podcast. I'm Ryan Cato here with Hunter Thompson, Trevor McVeigh, as always, the three best clipboard holders in the podcast game. Uh, there's a reason we're here with headphones on and our notes out. It's because we can't fucking play football, but we love it. So here we are. We're getting right into it this week because we got some news on some injuries and a hotly disputed topic amongst the backups in the Saints QB room. Trevor, you want to hit us with it?
Yeah, news of the week. Thanks for listening, everybody. Just to start out with, but the big news is Drew Brees got hurt I don't think he was sacked. I think he was hit on a pass attempt. He ended up freaking cracking or even breaking some ribs and collapsing one of his lungs. And he was, I believe, 41 or 42 years old. So, I mean, he's not going to heal like a 23, 24-year-old. So,
Yeah.
it's not ideal for his career. I mean, the Saints play the Falcons in 2 of the next 3 weeks, so it might be the last matchup Matt Ryan and Drew Brees ever play each other was last season, which kind of sucks, but really hurts their playoff contention, in my opinion, because all their QBs on that roster, all of the rest of their QBs on that roster suck.
Yeah, that is going to be tough for a guy his age to heal from something like that. A lot of, like you said, a couple broken ribs, a collapsed lung. I mean, you don't just you're not just like coming back and playing the next couple days, like that's not limited practice type shit. That's like you're in the hospital. So it'll be interesting to see. What I do want to know is who you guys think will be out there. We saw a bit of a preview at the end of the game after Brees was hurt. And or what is our favorite backup in the league, Taysom Hill's usage, going to look like with Drew Brees going down?
Take it, Hunter.
Yeah, okay. So obviously we saw what was really going to happen if Drew Brees is out for the rest of the season. It's going to be Jameis Winston time. Taysom Hill is still going to be used in that gimmick type role, but it's going to be Jameis. He's the guy who's going to be calling the shots. He's going to be the one that's going to be out there for most of the snaps because Taysom's not a real quarterback. He is a gimmick. He's the Mormon version of Tim Tebow. Don't remember who tweeted that, but I'm stealing it. But he's just a weapon. He's not a quarterback. He's just a gimmick. Jameis provides you the best opportunity to win in today's league with a passing quarterback. Because if you put Taysom in, you're going to be running it 60 times in a game, which does not benefit your offense and does not play to your offense's strengths. It's going to be worse than Lamar. Taysom might throw it 5 times a game.
Yeah, I mean, like we've talked about before, Taysom Hill's not a real quarterback. He is Mormon Tim Tebow, which when you sent me that tweet, I do want to say all I could think about was how cool Tim Tebow would have been if Sean Payton had just coached him.
Oh, no kidding.
Like it would have just been so cool. But I don't know. I hate Jameis. I think he's not that great. But he is gonna play, I think, to more of the team's strengths. You see a guy like Emmanuel Sanders, maybe actually getting his strengths played to when it comes to like the deep ball and stuff like that. Jameis can sling the ball a little bit farther than Drew Brees. So I don't know, but maybe Taysom's usage will go up a little bit as they try to make up for the fact that they don't have as smart of a QB under center. I did see him on a waiver wire pickups article today. So I don't know. I don't know what that's going to look like, but
yeah, my thing with Jameis the entire offseason was hurt. He got LASIK surgery, which was supposed to fix his entire game. And then we got to actually see him in a good bit of action this past week, and he was still making terrible decisions with the ball, throwing it in awful windows and the horrible coverage. I mean, you can fix your eyes a little bit, but it doesn't fix the decision-making process, which is more between the ears than it is on vision, in my opinion. I just don't think he has it, which is awful because his traits and arm talent is fantastic. He just doesn't have it between the ears as far as reading defenses and reading where to throw the ball. Then with Taysom, you could maybe get one good start out of him, maybe. And that's if you just catch a team off guard and they just don't know what to do against him. But I think they're in a lot of trouble if Drew Brees is out for a good bit of time.
Yeah, and we can talk about that in a segment we do have later. But I know you said there's some other injuries that are pretty notable to quarterbacks and to a couple other players maybe coming up this week.
Yeah, Drew Lock is experiencing some kind of back spasms or some kind of muscle discomfort of some kind, so he's expected to miss next week, which, to be honest, he hasn't played that well this year, so it's not like a huge loss for them. I mean, they're kind of struggling so far this season, but not great for Denver either way. And then you get Sam Darnold's going to miss another week, so we get to see another week of a Mr. Elite, Joe Flacco, the
Yes,
best
sir,
quarterback
Joe
in the
Flacco.
2008 draft.
Broadway Joe Flacco.
He has a ring.
He does have a ring.
have a ring.
And he's on his, what, 5th team? Not quite.
Something like that.
Then last one I've got throw in is Christian McCaffrey is still questionable for this coming week after being out for so long because of his knee injury. Comes back for a week, hurts his shoulder, so now he's questionable. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't play this week either, which is just really unfortunate for the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're probably playing better safe than sorry, though. I mean, it's not like they're making a playoff push or anything like that, but I think they just see its value. I do want to say the back spasms would probably explain why Drew Lock threw 4 interceptions this week, because I can't think of a single. I mean, I think we have differing opinions on Drew Lock, Hunter, and I didn't know that.
Bro, did you know he throws under 50% completion percentage against teams with an over 500 record? Second
That's
lowest
tough.
in the league.
Maybe I just like him. I just think he's fun.
I like his swagger. I like his confidence.
I think
but
maybe I'd like to be his
he's
friend.
not good.
Yeah, maybe I'd like to be his friend. I don't know. It's hard to tell.
I would get a beer with Drew Lock.
For sure. I think he'd be fun. I think I'd like to take Drew Lock out to the bar.
I think
maybe Drew Lock and I can go to the strip club. I think I would love to see Drew Lock throw some bands. I mean, I've never been to a strip club personally, but maybe.
Did you throw as many bands as Drew Lock though?
No, absolutely not. I cannot. And like Drew Lock would be giving me bands to throw, but like I think maybe a video of Drew Lock throwing bands, that would be fun.
See, I feel like taking Drew Lock to like a karaoke night would be a
karaoke night. Great idea.
You saw him on the sidelines last season.
Yeah. Just
he's sitting there kind of like jamming out.
He's having a good time. He can dance, sort of. I think he has nice dance moves. Twitter doesn't always agree, but I mean, maybe a karaoke night. What do you think? I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what kind of songs Drew Lock would be picking.
What was the one by? What was it? Jeezy?
Oh, Get On by Jeezy. He was rapping on the sideline.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
By Jeezy.
I would love to, or Put On, yeah, or something like that. I would love to do a duet with Drew Lock.
I feel like Drew Lock would like get up there and like sing Airplanes by B.O.B.
That would be fun. He would kill that too. The
Haley Williams part. He would be doing Haley Williams.
And so I'm gonna rap. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Okay. Would you rather do a karaoke night with Drew Lock or Kirk Cousins, who can actually sing?
Kirk Cousins can sing, but I feel like he's gonna be too bogged down by the stress of his life. Doesn't he have like 5 kids?
I think you're thinking Phillip Rivers.
No. Phil Rivers has like 9 kids. I think Kirk Cousins has like 5 kids. I'm pretty sure. He seems like a guy who has 5 kids.
All I know is I saw a video this week of his gender reveal where he's supposed to throw a football at this box that's supposed to detonate whatever color the gender of the child is, and he almost missed that from about 5 yards away, which I thought was hilarious.
No wonder Thielen's fantasy value is going down. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, he had a good week this week.
He did have a good week.
That one-handed grab in the end zone was dirty.
He did have a good week this week. I do want to move to our games of the week. That was a nice little tangent there that we just had. But I know, Trevor, you were very interested in the game this week between 2 rookie QBs. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
I feel like at this point this season, I can't go a week without talking about Justin Herbert or Tua, and it just worked out perfectly this week that I get to talk about both because they both played each other this week. The Chargers visited Miami this week. Miami wins another game. I think that was 6 in a row now, which is insane. With the Buffalo Bills kind of struggling, I mean, they had some heartbreak this week, but I'm sure we might mention that later. And then with the Patriots being very hit or miss this season, Dolphins are very much in the playoff picture, which is really nice to see. I mean, everyone kind of, well, not everyone, but even we as a group kind of criticized moving Fitzpatrick off the starting QB role and putting in Tua, but so far it's worked out. Tua didn't have any passing yards, but he went 15 to 25, 170 yards and 2 TDs. I mean, that's just efficient right there, baby. I mean, just Mr. Left-handed Drew Brees was what I'm hoping for. And then Justin Herbert was 20 of 32 with 190 yards and 2 TDs and an interception. Overall, really happy with both these guys. I just really want to talk about this game because of those two QBs. Again, Justin Herbert's overachieving my expectations. He's actually showing ability to read different.
Read different defenses and stuff.
Read defense. I'm looking for a certain word, but I can't remember.
Coverages?
No.
Safeties.
Moving progressions, like going from receiver to receiver. Don't know why that blanked in my mind. I apologize. But like he's actually like making good decisions with the football. He threw an interception, but it was against a good defense. I'm really happy with him. And then with Tua, with his recovery after that awful injury last season, to come in and he's already picking apart NFL defenses, I'm absolutely loving it, and easily becoming two of my favorite young QBs in the league so far.
I want to say the Chargers season has been fucking heartbreaking so far. Like
Honestly,
absolutely heartbreaking. The Chargers have lost all 7 of their games by 1 score or less.
Falcons of the West, baby.
Including to the Chiefs, to the Buccaneers, to the Saints, and to the Raiders, which are all strong teams, and to the Dolphins, obviously. All incredibly strong teams, and all 1-score games. Is it a coaching thing? Is it they just can't finish? Like, I don't know what the hell's going on there. Like, the defense just chokes. Like, I don't know. What could possibly be going wrong that they would lose 7 games by 1 score, and most of them to fairly good teams.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about how they can't finish. Maybe it's just a nerves thing, because sometimes a little nervous stuff. You know how it is. But
yeah, you've been there. You get up there, you can't perform. She's asking you what the hell's going on. Anyways,
I'm just saying,
she
man.
being the coach, but like
I'm just saying, man, you're off to a good lead. Sometimes you choke a little bit,
Sometimes you choke.
But I think it really does boil down to the whole nerves thing. I think it boils down to a coaching issue.
Agree.
Anthony Lynn, I think, is a solid coach, but it might just be time for him to move on from the Chargers. The Chargers move on from him. We've seen the Chargers look good under Anthony Lynn, and he's very well respected across the league and everything. But I think it's just probably time for them to move on. Bring in a young offensive mind, kind of like maybe a Joe Brady to LA. That'd be kind of good.
Oh,
honestly,
spicy.
that would be really good.
Because that's a talented offense. I mean, you look at Justin Herbert, Austin Ekeler, who's been injured this year. Who, by the way, Kalen Ballage took the hit this week. Had 18 carries, crazy. But Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry. I mean, it's
Mike Williams is having a
Mike
resurgence.
Williams, there you go. It's not a bad offense. It's a real talented offense, but it's just like.
And then they've got guys on defense too.
Yeah,
Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram, Kenneth Murray, Derwin James when he comes back, Chris Harris Jr. So I think with all that talent on that roster, I think you could put a little bit on having a rookie QB, but then the other has to be coaching.
But they really are the Falcons of the West in that way.
Yep. Falcons of the AFC, baby.
And the thing is, it's so wild, looking at that game, because it's a tale of 2 completely different coaching staffs. Because I would say Chargers and Miami are probably equally talented across the board. Honestly, I might say the Chargers have more talent on their side of the ball.
I would say that for sure.
But when you look at Brian Flores versus Anthony Lynn, Brian Flores has this roster performing at a much higher level. Like you were saying, Trevor, when they benched Fitzpatrick, I was like, oh man, this might not be the right call. But Tua's been slinging it. He's been playing well. They've been getting the best out of players that don't even have a lot of money. They just cut Jordan Howard this week, who they signed in the offseason for a decent running back contract. I mean, like realistically, like a lot of these guys are cheap. A lot of them are not really super high draft picks. It's a really interesting conversation to have, and I definitely think Brian Flores is in conversation for Coach of the Year. But
yeah,
it just makes me wonder what the Chargers could be with a competent coaching staff.
Yeah, I agree. And they are currently slated at 2-7 to be picking number 5 in the draft. So hopefully that means a strong piece. They'll probably miss out on Penny Sewell, but
it's so wild that 2-7 is sitting you at 5.
Yeah, it's a shitty year actually. Now that I look at it, because you have
Trevor, baby.
At 3-4, you have 2 NFC East teams. Washington and Dallas are sitting at 3-4, and the Giants are picking 8. And if
hey, they won this week.
If the Eagles were also if they were also not going to the playoffs just by record, they'd be picking at 10. So, I mean that's pretty absurd to me. But either way, I mean, it is a very confusing year. Like I said, hopefully the Chargers are looking at a strong piece to add somewhere, probably on the defense, and come back stronger next year, possibly with a new coaching staff. I do want to talk about another game this week. Actually, to be honest, I don't really want to talk about it.
I
because
do.
It hurt my heart, and the amount of times that I've been filled with glee to talk about how the Falcons have, blue balled themselves. This is retribution for that. But Buffalo, Arizona, it was a hell of a game. I enjoyed watching the game up to the very bitter end. Josh Allen didn't look his best, threw 2 interceptions, but was still fairly efficient. And through to both Cole Beasley and Stephon Diggs, they've been great so far this season. The big look was DeAndre Hopkins, obviously 7 receptions for 127 yards and a touchdown, which he caught over Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, and Tre'Davious White, which I like. Christ Almighty! I mean, how that's we talked about it in our group message, but I consider Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde to be probably the best safety duo in the league. Together, I'd consider them probably the best. And Tre'Davious White, who was one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL last year, and I saw Eric Weems, formerly of the Atlanta Falcons, tweet, that's why we used to put Julio back there. Because D-Hop absolutely mossed 3 members of the Buffalo defensive backs. So that's all I have to say about that. I was very upset by it, but hell of a game. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it.
Yeah, that was an incredible game. Kyler slung it.
Yeah.
It was a really good showing by both teams. I think both teams really showed that they deserve to be in the playoffs, even though Buffalo lost. I mean, they still looked good.
Yeah, agree.
It's just honestly dumb luck that D-Hop was able to come down with that. I guess this is just a sign that Buffalo needs some taller players, but we've been screaming that since last draft.
Right.
But I don't know. I think that was a hell of a game, and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, if we're being honest, I would say 99 out of 100 times D-Hop doesn't catch that ball. It was just the one time he does catch that ball over 3 people, which is wild. I mean, I will say Cato, your boy, Kenyon Drake actually had a pretty good game.
He did.
Which
He
is
actually ran
shocking.
for 100 yards, which is shocking. And you know where he was sitting? He was sitting right on my fucking bench. But where he belongs. which I don't want to talk about my fantasy week either. I had the worst fantasy week of my life. Robbie Anderson, Will Fuller, JT. I mean, not a single. I had to start Mike Gesicki this week because
for context, Trevor shat on Cato this week.
Trevor shat on me. So okay. So
For
I don't think
deeper context, though, 2 weeks ago in another league, Cato beat me my born. So it's kind of a little bit of revenge.
It's true. It's it's back. It's back to back. But Kenyon Drake did run for 100 yards this week, which is promising for his usage going forward, but only caught one pass for 9 yards. So we'll still have to see. He's not been very involved in the passing game thus far. So I'd still be careful if you're starting him on your fantasy team.
I do want to mention one more guy in this game. The trade for Stephon Diggs has been such a win for Buffalo. I mean, a lot of people thought that a bigger receiver might be better for Josh Allen just because of his inaccuracies at times. But him and Diggs have had this connection this whole year, especially when Allen's playing well. And I really think Justin Jefferson has looked good for Minnesota, but I mean, Stephon Diggs was still the safer option, and that connection they've had this season has been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that Justin Jefferson is cheaper.
Right.
Aside from that, Stephon Diggs has been absolutely excellent. One of the best receivers in the country this season.
I think it was definitely one of the best moves of the offseason for sure.
Agree.
He's really elevated that offense to a whole new level.
Let's just hope that Buffalo picks a taller fucking cornerback.
And puts Tommy Sweeney out there.
Give me somebody who's like 6'3", 6'4". I don't care. Anyways, for our final game of the week, Hunter, I know you want to talk about somebody that we may hit on in Super Bowl pretender or contender in a moment, but I would love to hear from you first.
Yeah, so my game of the week is obviously going to be New England and Baltimore. That was a hell of a game all the way around. I thought Baltimore was going to wax New England, but they didn't.
Yes.
And that is concerning. For a team that's supposed to be the second or third best team in the AFC behind Pittsburgh and Kansas City, that's concerning that you cannot wax a team where Cam Newton has only thrown 3 passing touchdowns on the season.
Yeah.
I don't get how it's so weird watching New England and Baltimore because both these teams have games where they look like some of the best teams in the NFC or AFC, in NFL. And then other weeks they look like two of the absolute worst. Because we saw Baltimore get curb stomped by Kansas City earlier in the year and looked pitiful. And then we've seen them have fantastic games with Lamar playing well. And I think what this game really boiled down to is the lack of playmakers on Baltimore's offense. Marquise Brown is not panning out. What is his name? Chris Boykin, right? The other receiver. I think it's Chris Charles, something like that. But Boykin not panning out. That's a 2018 first-round pick and a 2019 third-round pick that you missed on at receiver. You have to do better if you're really expecting Lamar to play at the insane level that you're expecting him to. You need to get him a weapon that is proven or at least consistent.
Because it's not Willie Snead.
Willie Snead is not the answer. Mark Andrews has been great at tight end.
Right, but that can't be the end-all, be-all, you know?
Exactly. I mean, we saw it in Kansas City. Travis Kelce for those years before Tyreek was not good enough on his own. And he's a much better option than Mark Andrews.
Yes.
No disrespect to Andrews, but
Kelce is the best tight end in the league.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Andrews caught 7 passes for 60 yards. That's not going to get you anywhere. And Lamar Jackson still threw 34 passes.
Yeah, so, I believe it was his highest passing yards on the season.
Right.
That's wild. I'll dive into Baltimore once we touch back on them as far as pretenders and contenders. I want to talk about Patriots for a second.
Yeah.
Cam Newton, 13 of 17 with a TD. Honestly, his arm, I don't know about y'all, looked kind of weak, which was kind of weird for him. None of his balls had the normal zip that he normally has, in my opinion. But the story for their team was freaking Rex Burkhead. I mean, had a receiving touchdown and a rushing touchdown. But then you could also throw in there Damian Harris had 121 yards rushing, and he was the one who really just was their rock the whole game. I mean, he just solidified their entire offense.
Yeah, I mean,
Cam can't do it.
The Patriots ran the ball 39 times against that Baltimore defense, which has been very good so far this season.
Wasn't
But
it
I
raining
guess-
that game?
Oh, it was pouring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that
It
didn't
was
help
a
either for both QBs.
Terrible weather. But I mean,
And then, as far as receivers go, I mean, their leading receiver was Jacoby Myers.
As it has been.
I mean, both sides of the football have no wide receivers. N'Keal Harry, first-round pick. Granted, he hasn't had much to work with as QB this year,
Right.
and he was hurt majority of last year, so he didn't get to work with Tom Brady. But I haven't really seen much from him at all this season, and it's really concerning. And then, same draft, Marquise Brown on the other side of the ball does nothing. Really look like two whiffs at wide receiver in round one for both of these teams.
yeah.
Luckily, this is. Oh yeah, you got it.
I was just going to go in a little bit more on New England with
Yeah.
the coaching, how it's been going this season. It's so wild to watch New England completely revolutionize their playing style, because I mean, last season they were pass first, run second with Tom Brady, obviously, but this season it's been interesting to watch them run it 30-40 times a game with no real hesitation and throw it less than 20.
Yeah, and no real actual running back. I mean, it's not like Damian Harris is like a super big deal. He's just the guy they give the ball to 20 times a game, and he does his job.
Right.
Exactly. It's just it's insane how weird New England looks this year. I'm not saying bad or good, but it's weird.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
do want to mention one more guy in this
for
game.
sure.
Lenore Ryan, safety.
Kyle
Kyle
Duggar.
led them in
Yes.
tackles. So I just wanted to
Yes.
mention him, give him a little shout out.
Bro, he was all over the field.
Yeah, love that guy.
And then my
very
boy
simple.
Chase Winovich,
Of course, as always,
Wino was making plays.
Had a good game.
that Patriots defense has been pretty strong, holding the Ravens to only 17 points. I was gonna say before we move on to contender or pretender, both of these teams are lucky that this is a pretty deep receiver draft, in my opinion. Looking at some very strong first round receivers, and maybe we'll see them shoot on some of them in that first round. The Patriots could be picking pretty early. I mean, they're sitting at 4
They
and
should be going
5.
for a QB, in my opinion.
I mean, they're sitting at 15. I think you can get, if you fall outside the top 3 in this draft class. I don't want to get too far into the draft right now, but if you fall outside the top 3 in this draft class, I think you could just wait until the second or third round. But that's just my opinion.
For a QB or wide receiver?
For a quarterback. If you fall outside
You
the top
say
3.
that, but they got Stidham in the second round, 2 years ago, and he's not been good for them either.
Yeah, they also
Right,
got
but
Tom
a miss
Brady
is a
in the
miss.
6th round, though.
Right, a miss is a miss. I mean,
Tom Brady's an anomaly, bro.
I think whoever you grab is going to be a developmental quarterback, because they're not getting Trevor Lawrence, they're not getting Justin Fields, and depending on who you ask, Zach Wilson or Trey Lance. I don't think that they're going to hit on any of
So,
them.
neither one. I mean, I love Trey Lance. I'm the biggest Trey Lance believer on this podcast, but he's not a day one starter.
Right.
Neither is Zach Wilson. I mean, you could force each of them to be a day one starter if you needed them to, but it's not going to pan out well.
I think it'd go about as well as Cam. I think they'd be
That's
4
what
and
I'm
5.
saying. Yeah, it'd be the same thing as playing a Cam Newton or a Kyle Allen out there.
Right.
I mean, it's just it's not going to go well. But
I do like this QB class a lot.
But in the second round, you could get a Mac
that.
Jones, a Kyle Trask,
Kyle Trask. I mean, yeah,
I
Desmond
think Trask
Ritter.
could be a first rounder.
he could be. I mean, who says New England doesn't, trade back, maybe accumulate some picks and pick somebody like Kyle Trask
I said
into first round?
Bill is known for trading back, so I could see them move back if somebody's willing to make the jump forward.
Yeah, I
It
think it's
seems
very
like their
possible.
defensive picks are kind of hitting, like Winovich, Duggar. I can't name it others at the moment, but their offensive picks have really just underperformed. Like Sony Michel, he's been hurt
Bill,
his whole career. He
Bill
had a good
can't
rookie.
scout offensive.
Yeah,
Bill,
I mean
he
Isaiah
just
Wynn was pretty good, but he got hurt as well. But he had a pretty good night. N'Keal Harry has not looked good.
I can't think of the last time the Patriots had a good offensive player they actually drafted themselves, other than Gronk.
Yeah, and Gronk
Me
was
either,
like
brother.
what
Because like Randy
late
Moss was not them.
Nope.
right?
Edelman was, but I don't know if I'd say Edelman's good. I mean, he was okay,
Edelman's good.
but he was
Edelman's good.
I think Edelman was a product
There.
of Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Wes Welker was not drafted by the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what the last, years of this dynasty have been. They take guys who like kind of get,
Chris Hogan.
let go by they're these little guys, they get let go by their teams. They're not looking too great and they kind of turn them into something, but for some reason they can't hit on first round picks. It's very confusing.
They just can't hit on any offensive draft picks.
Well,
as a
right.
whole.
That's yeah.
I mean, Damian Harris looks fine, but he just pretty much took over Sony's role. So you took two players to draft to one position or
Exactly.
one role player you want.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I know I know y'all are tired of me hearing, they're tired of hearing me talk about Bill as a GM, but like, it's not looking good right now. Like, in today's NFL, you need a high-powered offense, and if you can't hit on offensive draft picks, how are you supposed to get your next franchise quarterback?
I mean, that is the question. Because, like, obviously, Tom Brady, like Trevor said, was an anomaly. And that's going to be the question, I think, of the next few years for the New England Patriots. We're going to get into Super Bowl contender versus pretender in just a moment and talk about the Baltimore Ravens as we just did for our first team. But first, we're going to take a quick break as we're already 31 minutes in to this podcast. It's going to be a hell of an episode. But we will be right back.
What's up, everybody? Ryan Cato here from the Backups Cast. I just want to let you know that this week's episode is brought to you by the Buffalo Secondary. If you're looking to get absolutely mossed by a receiver that's the same height as the average of 3 defensive backs, then join the Buffalo Secondary. The Buffalo Secondary. Why do we even try?
Welcome back, football fans. Thank you for sticking with us. We're the Backups, a football podcast. Ryan Cato, Hunter Thompson, Trevor McVeigh here, back with you, ready to play Super Bowl contender or pretender. Last week we played playoff contender or pretender with a few of our favorite sus teams in the NFL. We talked about the Browns. We talked about the NFC West, a couple other teams. And if you are interested in hearing that, you can go listen to last week's episode. But this week, like I said, we're going to get right into it with Baltimore, who we just talked about against New England. And they were a pretty late playoff favorite coming into this season and have not looked their best. I mean, 6-3 and have been, like you said, there's some games they look great. Some games they're looking a little shaky, like this Patriots game. So are they a Super Bowl pretender or contender?
They are an absolute pretender. I mean, kind of like I was saying just a couple of minutes ago, you need weapons to compete in this NFL. And like I said, Patriots are missing out on that. But Baltimore's been missing just as badly. Marquise Brown should not have been a first-round pick. He was struggling to get separation all in that game from one of the McCourties. I don't remember. Maybe it was both. They're twins. They throw me off. But Marquise Brown's 25, 26, something like that. And the McCourties reached 32 and have been in the league for years and have never really been super fast. And Marquise Brown is supposed to be fast. You should be able to get separation away from these guys. And he can't. And so who's Lamar supposed to throw to?
Right, and we talked about that. I mean, I think they're pretenders also. If you look at the teams that they've lost to, they've been good teams. I mean, the Patriots obviously were still up in the air about that, but the other two teams are the Chiefs and the Steelers, which aren't even in this game that we're playing, because I think that we all agree that those are two very strong contenders for the Super Bowl. I mean, the teams that they're beating are not that great. The Texans, the Redskins, or the football team, excuse me. The
Yeah,
football
you
team,
better fix that.
you know what I'm saying? The Bengals, the Eagles. I mean, like they're just not beating good teams, and so I think it's going to be really tough coming down the stretch when they got to play, the Titans, who we're still up in the air about, but then the Steelers again. I think they make the playoffs easily with the rest of their schedule,
for sure.
but I think they're getting blown out by the first good team they play.
Yeah, I would also agree that they're pretenders. I mean, of course, they're playoff contenders. I mean, they'll one of the 3 wild card spots unless something catastrophic happens for them. But I think it's just a combo. I think I may have mentioned this last podcast of as far as Lamar's like passing progression as a QB. I mean, he still has the running ability. It still looks fine, but as far as making him throw the ball, he just hasn't progressed at a speed that you would like to see him throw. I mean, granted, his top receiver this past week was Willie Snead, who one doesn't really seem to fit what he needs, in my opinion. He would have needed like a T. Higgins or like a bigger body receiver, maybe even take a chance on a Mo Sanu, but they went with Dez Bryant, which I don't even think he had a target this game. Marquise Brown, if you watch the Oklahoma days, CeeDee Lamb was still kind of the star, even with Marquise Brown there, especially the last season. We've all mentioned the weapons there. The weapons aren't great, and then you add in Lamar's lack of passing ability. It's just not a good like Super Bowl contender scenario. The defense has been fine, hasn't been great. Patrick Queen, I'm pretty sure, has struggled a lot this season. So I really have to put them at pretender at this point.
Yep, fully agree. I think we're all on the same page there in terms of the Super Bowl. The next team, I'm not sure that we'll all be on the same page. Maybe we will. But the Buffalo Bills, like we talked about, had a heartbreaking loss to the Arizona Cardinals. At least it was heartbreaking for me this last week. Would you guys put them at contender or pretender at 7-3?
Go ahead, Hunter.
Yeah, okay. I was hoping you were going to take the lead on this one.
No, how about it, Chief?
I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to say they're a pretender. And I know that might hurt your feelings a little bit, Cato.
That's okay.
Do I think Buffalo could surprise everybody and get to the championship game? Yeah, of course. But until they can develop a consistent running game, just to balance out the offense, because Josh Allen isn't going to outduel Patrick Mahomes. He might outduel Big Ben, sure, but you can also game plan Josh Allen out of the game easier than you can Mahomes or Big Ben.
Sure.
But until you develop a consistent running game to help support your young-ish franchise quarterback, I don't think you're going to have a shot. Devin Singletary is not getting the job done. Zach Moss has really not done what I was expecting him to do in Buffalo. I loved that pick, and it's not working out for them so far. All in all, I mean, I'd like to think Buffalo can compete, but I wholeheartedly cannot get behind that right now.
Yeah, you got it, Trevor.
I completely disagree. I think this team is a contender. Josh Allen is that good. But like you said, it's Josh Allen or nothing. I mean, their run game has been non-existent. Singletary's kind of underachieved. I'm not sure if that's more Singletary or the offensive line. But, I mean, they're still 7-3, winning games, beating decent teams. It's not like they're beating a bunch of scrubs or anything, like playing the Falcons 7 weeks in a row. But, I mean, if Josh Allen takes care of the ball as far as fumbles, interceptions, they are generally in it to win it just about every week. And even, I mean, he threw 2 interceptions this week, and it took a Hail Mary to beat the Bills. And they were on the road. They have a good enough defense to contend in the playoffs. I really like Josh Allen. He did choke a little bit under pressure last season. He got up to that lead against the Texans. The Texans came back. I remember that right. It wasn't the other way around, right?
That's
okay,
correct.
Sorry. Didn't want to make you relive that one. Still want to be wrong. But I do think if Josh Allen plays well, they have a chance of winning every week, and that could take them all the way to the Super Bowl. I don't
Yeah.
think they're pretenders personally.
So to cheat, I'm somewhere in the middle. But I think the case is, you look at the defense who's underachieved this season, compared to
Agreed.
last season. They were one of the best defenses in the league last season, and then to come into this year and have to have the offense carry them, that's been confusing. But the addition of Stephon Diggs, like we talked about, has been very strong. And I mean, Josh Allen showed he can hang with gunslingers. I mean, you look at the Bills Seahawks game of last week, rather, not this week, but the week before. And Russell Wilson threw for 390 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Josh Allen won that game. Josh Allen threw for 415, did not throw an interception. So that he if he's playing to that level, they can compete. What I'm concerned about is if you want to talk about Super Bowl contender or pretender, I look at the top 2 teams in the AFC, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Kansas City Chiefs, and I don't think that the Bills win a game against them, and especially not in the playoffs. So like you said, Hunter, I think a run game would do them well. It's been pretty underwhelming so far this season, and so
What
I'm not
changed with the
entirely sure
defense?
where they. I really don't know. We starting Josh Norman, which that
Not
could
ideal.
be an issue.
That explains it all right there.
Matt Milano, who's like a pretty centerpiece of our offense. He plays that inside linebacker position. Has been hurt this season, on and off. So he's kind of a leader on the defense. And then Shaq Lawson is playing for Miami now, and he was an edge piece for us. So
what happened to Ed Oliver? I mean, I was one of his biggest fans, but I haven't really heard his name since the draft, really.
Yeah, he plays like DT, so it's not the flashiest position, but he's been doing his job. He's not Aaron Donald, but
no one is.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely no one is. Moving on, though, in contender or pretender, we did it last week with the NFC West, and this is another kind of tandem, but I do want to talk about the top of the NFC South, the New Orleans Saints and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Are we thinking contender or pretender for those 2 teams?
Yeah, I'll take the lead again on this one because,
Oh, boy.
I just keep doing that. New Orleans is an absolute pretender, and Tampa is a contender. I think Tom Brady with these new weapons in the playoffs will be unmatched. We've seen how he's been this season once he gets dialed in. We saw what happened after the embarrassing loss to the Packers. We saw what happened after. Didn't they just lose like 2 weeks ago?
To the Saints. They got crushed.
Yeah, they got crushed by the Saints. And we saw them dialed in this week. I think all in all, Tom Brady in the playoffs is going to be a completely different animal this year, and it scares me. As in, like if I were a fan of a team that's going to make the playoffs in the NFC, which I'm not because the Falcons probably won't, I would be terrified of facing Tom Brady in the playoffs. And then on the other end of the spectrum, the Saints are absolutely crushing everybody in the regular season, but I don't know if Drew Brees and his arm can go toe-to-toe with some of these younger quarterbacks. I don't know if he can go out-duel Russell Wilson in Seattle. I don't know if he could go out-duel Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau. Actually, I know he can't out-duel Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau.
Yep, I agree. I'm with you actually on both of those. Buccaneers as a contender, Saints as a pretender, which is confusing because the Saints have taken on the Bucs twice this season and won both times. The first time in week 1, and then the second time 2 weeks ago, when the Saints embarrassed the Buccaneers 38-3. But if you look at the rest of the Saints scores, they're not that impressive. Beating the Chargers by 1 score, which everybody does, beating the Bears by 1 score, beating the Panthers by 1 score. It hasn't been an impressive season. And then you look at the Bucs, and the Bucs doubled the Panthers score this week, 46-23. put the hammer down on the Raiders as well, and beat the Packers 38-10. So I'd be with you. I think in an NFC that's been pretty confusing so far this season, the Bucks would be a contender and the Saints a pretender.
Yeah, I have to agree on the Bucks. Their roster is just too good. Their linebacking core is top 3, top 5 in the league. That may even be number
Yeah.
1. Like Devin White out of LSU has hit as a pick, and he's been so damn good. I mean, of course, their corners aren't the best, but they've been fine this year. I mean, with the pass rush and those linebackers, they've been really damn good. And then you add in the offense, which is one of the best in the league with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, guys like Tyler Johnson out of Minnesota is contributing, Scotty Miller, and
Not to mention Rojo.
Rojo, yeah, so I was about to throw him in there, who had a
Yeah.
98-yard touchdown run, who's really having a resurgence in his career. Because, I mean, the beginning of it has not been very good. Then you got Leonard Fournette as your backup. I mean, this roster's crazy. O-line's played well. Definitely consider them a contender, especially with Tom Brady at the helm. And, yeah, I'd be terrified to play them in the playoffs. Now, on the other side, with the Saints, with Drew Brees, I consider them contenders because him and Sean Payton, they always get something cooked up, and they're always in just about every game. They rarely ever get blown out. I mean, they blew out the Buccaneers 2 weeks ago, 38-3, which was embarrassing for the Bucs. I mean, as much as I just hyped them up, I mean, it wasn't even close. Tom Brady threw 3 interceptions. But the playoffs are different, but Drew Brees also has playoff experience. But where it changes is Drew Brees just broke his freaking ribs, and now you're starting Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would consider
Do
them.
not disrespect the GOAT that is Jameis Winston.
Oh, Lord.
Fuck up. I
You've
can't
been
believe
on
we're
this
doing this
all
again.
year.
We do this every damn episode. We got to talk about James Winston. I'm gonna beat
Bro,
your
I've been
ass.
waiting.
I'm
I've
gonna
been
beat
waiting
your
for
ass.
this. I've been waiting for this all season. So you know I'm gonna take advantage of it.
I'm
Well,
gonna
now
beat
he
your
plays,
ass.
and he absolutely sucked last game. So,
Yeah, he wasn't very good. He was 6 for 10.
I guess we'll see him torch Atlanta this week then.
Yeah, we will
that
see
ain't
him
saying
torch
much, baby.
And then
And
I
that
will
is-
be
yeah, I was gonna say-
reevaluate. Then we'll look back on this conversation, and I'm going to talk about how great Jameis Winston
And
was.
Jameis is gonna be backup of the week because he played
What do
Atlanta's
you-
defense.
Well, yeah, when he's
Exactly.
torching Kendall Sheffield and Isaiah Oliver for the whole game
God,
with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans.
I'm sorry that we can't get a better secondary out there, but
I
Jameis
just
is
named
still
Tampa
going to torch
freaking
us.
wide receivers. Whoops.
Yeah, I was about to say you mean Mike Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. Either
Yep,
way,
my bad. I'm still used
and
to
and
the.
Kamara. Kamara's gonna. Good lord.
Oh
gosh.
gosh.
Kamara's gonna have. You have Kamara. You have Kamara. You're gonna have a 50-point week from Kamara. I do want to say
ain't
though, that you did mention Tampa's defense, which has been very strong. Strong box, the linebackers in the line, and Carlton Davis has been one of the better cornerbacks in the league this season. Has been super strong, and has given up little to nothing.
Well, I apologize
Or
for the slander,
interceptions.
Mr. Carlton Davis.
But aside from that, it is. I mean, it's like we didn't expect coming into the season that those DBs were going to be much, and they've been very strong. So Tampa, a strong contender, like we said. I do want to talk about one more team in contender versus pretender. That I sort of mentioned earlier when talking about Buffalo, but the Seattle Seahawks, who are now 6-3, which, by the way, crazy division, NFC West. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to
Yes.
Oh,
expect.
they've been fun this year.
They're crazy. I mean, everybody's 6 and like top 3 are 6-3, and the 49ers are 4-6.
They're
but-
like the opposite of the NFC East.
yeah, exactly. Honestly, but the Seattle Seahawks, we thinking contender or pretender?
Oh, that's an absolute contender. As long as Russell Wilson is on the field, he is going to carry them like he's been doing all season and like he's done his entire damn career. He's going to carry them to potentially another Super Bowl. I don't know who in the NFC could beat them right now. Yes, their defense is. I mean, their defense isn't that great, but it's one of those. Shut up, Kato.
I mean, we can
I
talk
know
about-
I know the Rams just beat them, but it's just one of those things. Like in the playoffs, you can see the quarterbacks that have the it factor. Tom Brady has it. Russell Wilson has it. Aaron Rodgers has it. all these guys have the it factor to carry themselves to a Super Bowl themselves.
Yeah, look, I was making sort of a joke, but also sort of not a joke because this was Russ's first bad game, like really bad game of the season, and the Rams kind of like they kind of messed him up. I mean, like 2 interceptions, no touchdowns from Russ, no touchdowns at all from Russ. The only touchdown of the Seahawks game came from Alex Collins. I don't even know who that is, to be honest.
Former Ravens running back, picked him up on the fantasy league.
Yeah, you picked him up and then he had 1 touchdown. So, but very confusing game for the normally very high-powered Seattle Seahawks. DK Metcalf 2 catches, Tyler Lockett with 5, but the Rams beat them, and now the Cardinals, the Rams, and the Seahawks all have the same record. We were talking about the NFC West last week in terms of the playoffs, and now, Seattle might have to be a wild card in that division. So, but if Russ comes back to form next week against the Cardinals, we're obviously going to see a Super Bowl contender, in my opinion.
Yeah, my opinion on this team is they are contenders. But all we heard at the beginning of the season was let Russ cook. And since Chris Carson's been struggling, they haven't really done that well. So at their core, they are a running team. I mean, last year they ran more than any team in the league. Maybe not as much as Tennessee. But if you let Chris Carson and Carlos Hyde out there and let them be their just be the rock, and then let Russell freaking burn them whenever they're playing the run, that is their bread and butter. But I mean, the running game was not good this week, and he ends up throwing 2 interceptions. Jalen Ramsey locked down DK Metcalf. DK didn't do anything, which tells you how good Jalen Ramsey is.
Correct.
But when Seattle's healthy, with Chris Carson and Carlos Hyde out there running the ball, being the rock, they are contenders. And that's when Russ can actually open up and start lighting people up when they're having to play the run and the pass. Defense still is kind of shaky. And also, Russ got sacked 6 times this game. Leonard Floyd somehow had 3 sacks, which is probably like he's tied for his career high, if not doubling his career high. So overall, they are contenders, but they really need to be at 100% to be better.
Yeah, I do want to say the Seahawks left in their schedule have the Eagles, the Giants, the Jets, and the football team in a row.
So it looks like the Seahawks are making the playoffs.
It looks like the Seahawks have a minimum of 10 wins.
Holy crap!
But that's a pretty good run for them right there in a row. Wow. I'm blown away by how easy that those 4 games are. But have the Cardinals next week. We did talk about letting Russ cook, and when Russ isn't able to play well, like we saw in this Rams game, that team's kind of shut down. But a lot of talk was going on probably through the first 6 or 7, maybe 8 games of the season about Russ and the MVP. And after this last game, some people are taking a bit of a step back. I know, Trevor, you had some thoughts on that, and maybe we can talk about some other MVP contenders this season.
Yeah, I really wanted to mention that this week. I didn't pick it back up because I wanted to talk about this specifically. I mean, Seahawks have dropped 3 out of their last 4 games, which is not really good going into playoffs coming up soon. I mean, Cato just mentioned they're not the next 4 out of the next 5 opponents are, no offense, trash. So they should be able to bounce back. But Russell Wilson, who came out as the heavy MVP favorite, and that's been the storyline with him the last few seasons, is he looks like a Hall of Famer. But I think even Hunter may have mentioned on this podcast, he's never been the best QB at the same time in a season. Like, never been the best QB in a season for his career. And I think he had the hold of that to begin the season. And then, I mean, he threw 3 interceptions against the Cardinals to let Cardinals beat them in OT, because that's what they got him back in that game like 3 or 4 weeks ago. and I think they won one, and now they've lost 3 straight or 2 straight, something like that. And I don't think these 4 weeks. I think these 4 weeks are really going to screw up his opportunity to be MVP unless he really lights up those that stretch of terrible teams.
He's playing the NFC East. He's going to be back in the MVP conversation by the end of the season.
I'd say so too. I mean, Russell Wilson still is has the best odds for MVP this season from Vegas, followed closely though by Patrick Mahomes after this last week. I mean, Patrick Mahomes always so solid, and then some distant picks behind them: A-Rod, Josh Allen, and Kyler Murray. But I don't know. I think with the remaining schedule, he does have to play the Cardinals, the Rams, and the 49ers in those other games. But that 4-game stretch of 3 NFC East teams and the Jets is going to do him right when it comes to statistics, and hopefully he'll be back on track for the MVP race. I want it for him. He's a good guy, and I think he's a worthy player of the MVP title. Speaking of MVPs, it's time for Backup of the Week, because we know here at the Backups who the real MVPs are. And it's those guys that get a chance after sitting so long on the sideline that the bench has become too warm. It's become too warm. They say, boys, you got to sit up. You got to stand up. You got to get off the bench. It's too warm now because you've been warming it for too damn long.
Hey, man, you know what they say. If it's too hot on the bench, get in the game.
And these boys did this week, the 2 guys that we want to talk about. Hunter, I'd love for you to hit on your Backup of the Week. That maybe they should name the award after him.
Yeah. So my Backup of the Week is also probably going to be our Comeback Player of the Year, Alex motherfucking Smith.
Yeah, baby.
This man got out there. Granted, he lost, but he still slung the rock for 390 yards.
Yeah, you don't just do that.
Did you know that Alex Smith has thrown for over 300 yards for the first time ever in back-to-back games in his career?
Didn't know that.
Ever?
I believe so.
That's amazing.
That's really amazing. And he's 37 and can barely move.
Yeah, against the Giants and the Lions. But he did do it. It threw for 55 passes. But Alex Smith,
that doesn't matter. He's 37, can't move, and still did it.
And he did. Alex Smith, it should be called the Alex Smith Comeback Player of the Year award. I know we talked about it before, and Alex Smith has been on our Backups of the Week before. But had a hell of a game, and happy to see him just playing football. Because there were definitely times where we weren't sure if that was going to happen. My Backup of the Week actually didn't even have to do what he did, but it's the Raiders' backup running back. Now, I do want to say Josh Jacobs carried the ball 21 times for 112 yards and 2 touchdowns in the Raiders' upheaval of the Denver Broncos. Yeah. I mean, it was not even a close game. The Raiders absolutely took it to the Denver Broncos, but Devontae Booker, who is the Raiders' backup running back, ran the ball also 16 times for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns, about the same average that Josh Jacobs did. Derek Carr didn't have to do anything. Derek Carr threw for 150 yards, and they just fed the rock to the boys in the backfield the whole game and ran straight through that Denver defense. Devontae Booker is my backup of the week for doing just what he had to do and taking the rock for the Las Vegas Raiders. So if you enjoyed that segment, Backup of the Week, and you want to put in your feedback on who you think the Backup of the Week is, you can find it on our Twitter at the Backups Cast. There's a poll every week after the podcast gets posted, so you'll be able to find it there, as well as all of our personal Twitters that are in the Twitter bio. Follow us for good content.
I do want to mention one more thing before we go.
Go for it, Trevor.
We haven't mentioned this year, but Michael Pittman Jr. led the Colts in receiving this past week with a over 100-yard game, and the win over the Titans, which was a big win for them. I just wanted to mention him, just as a rookie, actually balling out.
True. We do love rookies and backups. We love to see young people doing their thing. Anything else you have on closing words, Trevor? I'd love to hear it.
Always thanks for listening. I'm also going to mention T. Higgins is the best receiver on the Bengals right now. And I'll talk to y'all next week.
Yep.
Fire Adam Gase.
Yeah, that's
Keep
all you
Adam
got
Gase.
this week. I'm still team fire Adam Gase. Actually, who are the Jets playing next week? That's a great question. The Jets have the Chargers next week. Maybe they'll win by 1 score. That could happen. The Jets might win a game this week.
Bro,
by
that's their
4 points.
their one win this season.
That would be hilarious. I'd probably laugh at that.
At that point, Anthony Lynn deserves to get fired.
Yeah, he might as well. And if they win that game, honestly, Adam Gase probably deserves to get fired too because that could put the Jaguars in a position to get Trevor Lawrence. So, either way, I think fire Adam Gase. You can subscribe to our YouTube, the Backups Cast. See all of our smiling faces. You can see pretty much just Trevor's forehead, but that'll do. If you like what you hear, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, and on Podbean, where we host our podcast. Quick shout out to Brian Lamb and the ISN Podcast Network, where we're hosted this season, and you'll find more content from there coming up when it comes to draft time. Otherwise, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.